Donald Trump is being frozen out of deals by world leaders. You have Xi Jinping of China just putting the dagger into Donald Trump. Remember when Donald Trump said he was making a big, powerful deal with China regarding China purchasing Boeing airplanes? Well, that's falling apart. Trump's Boeing deal hits turbulence as Beijing says they just can't do a deal with Donald Trump. Remember when Donald Trump said, well, when I met with Xi Jinping back in May, we talked very powerfully, very strongly about the U.S. and China setting up a board of investment. We're going to do a board of investment together where we're going to coordinate all of this incredible trade. Well, according to some of the latest reporting out of China, the U.S.-China Board of Investment stalls before it even really took off the ground. The president of the U.S.-China Business Council says neither side has even initiated the consultation process under the so-called Board of Investment. Donald Trump likes making these splashy announcements, huh? The Board of Peace. He says, we've done a deal between Hamas and Israel. And then Netanyahu says, no way, we're never doing a deal with Hamas. In fact, we're going to continue the genocide and we're going to go deeper into Lebanon and Syria's the next Gaza, the Netanyahu regime says. But hey, we did call it the Board of Peace. And all Donald Trump says is, look at all the peace deals I made. And then you have Donald Trump's Undersecretary of Defense, the number 2 to Pete Hegseth over at the Defense Department. Remember, he referred to himself as a China hawk. We're going to decouple from China. We're going to show China who the real superpower is. Well, this Pentagon policy chief, Elbridge Colby, can't even get invited to Beijing. Pentagon policy chief Elbridge Colby, a longtime China hawk, meaning he's going to be tough. Just like when these MAGA Republicans say we're fiscal hawks, but then our debt rises to $40 trillion. We're deficit hawks. But then last month, we had the greatest expansion of our deficit in U.S. history. We're now paying close to what, like $1.2, $1.3 trillion of interest on the debt as our treasury bonds. Yields are so high at this point because Trump has caused the United States to be deemed so unpredictable and unreliable internationally. But I digress. Elbridge Colby, the China hawk, wants to play nice with an official visit to Beijing. The Chinese government is making clear he's not invited. Colby has been trying for months to get an invitation from China. He really wants just to be there and beg to improve the relationship. And they're like, nah, you're the guy talking about decoupling and screwing us over. So yeah, we're going to pass on that. So just to recap how I started this video, Donald Trump's Boeing deal off. Donald Trump's top Defense Department official won't get invited to China. Donald Trump's Board of Investment with China. No consultations took place, but I'll tell you what is happening. Taiwan is preparing for a potential invasion by China. Taiwan is now doing its largest military drills of the year, preparing for potential combat scenarios for a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Taiwan's drills are also testing relocating its arms productions in the event of a Chinese attack. Taiwan is turning its Coast Guard into a stronger military support force to counter a potential Chinese invasion or blockade. Well done, Donald. And then, I'm being sarcastic, as the United States has not only destroyed its security umbrella in the Middle East, you now know you have Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and Turkey forming the Mecca Pact. Egypt may join in the future. You have other Arab nations looking to take control of their own security destiny because the U.S. has run out of weapons. Yeah, Donald Trump had $1 trillion budget last year, and he and Pete Hegseth, they bankrupted our military and they ran out of weapons. And the security umbrella by the United States has collapsed in Asia as well. And the United States security umbrellas collapsed throughout the world. The United States security umbrella has collapsed in the United States. In just a little bit, I'm going to show you what a top military general said in the United States. A top general in charge of protecting the U.S. gave a very frank and troubling assessment of the U.S. capability. I'll just play this clip now for you. I won't tease it, but I then want to show you more of what this guy had to say regarding the global alliances that are taking shape. The deputy commander of the United States Northern Command was asked this Thursday if he could defend against an attack by a swarm of drones in the homeland. His reply was blunt and chilling. No, TWZ-10 reports. We don't have the sensors, and depending on where that swarm is going to attack, it depends on whether we have sensors at all, and also on whether we've got any effectors to go after that a problem, Army Lieutenant General Joseph Girard said, who also serves as the Vice Commander, United States Element, North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD. He was addressing an audience at the Space and Missile Defense Symposium. In other words, not only does the U.S. security umbrella not work for our allies abroad, we can't defend our homeland. So let's just say we invaded Cuba, which the Trump regime is threatening to do, and then Cuba launches drones at the United States. We have zero ability to protect against that. Or as Donald Trump continues to escalate the catastrophic war in Iran, let's just say there was a ability to strike here in the U.S. We don't have any capabilities, and that's, of course, in addition to what we've been reporting here on the MeidasTouch network, how the United States just ran war games and various simulations with the Ukrainian military regarding how Ukrainian drone swarms would attack, how our military would deal with Ukrainian drone swarms. The Ukrainian military destroyed our military yet again in minutes with their drone swarms. And we had to, quote, respawn our military, which you can do in a video game simulation, but not in real life, multiple times, and Ukraine continued to win. Here is what this top military commander had to say, just so you can hear for yourself that we can protect our homeland from drones. Let's play this clip.
And you addressed it quite well, the threat of inexpensive drones, which are proliferating the threat space. The next threat to the homeland can be a swarm of inexpensive drones launched from inside our own borders, rather than a missile approaching from thousands of miles away. Does NORAD have the sensor coverage, authorities, and decision speed necessary to respond?
No.
And could you comment on that and on the gap today, the biggest gap you see?
Well, I mean, we don't have the sensors, and we're not, depending on where that swarm is going to attack, depends on whether we have any sensors at all, and so, and also whether we've got any effectors to get after that problem. So, we are ill-equipped right now to handle something like that, and obviously that is we've seen it used. We're seeing it used on a daily basis around the world, and we've got to figure out how to mitigate that threat, and but we're not there yet.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So while you have the Trump incapable of making deals, obviously can't make a deal with Iran, can't make a deal with China. Let's take a look at people who are making deals. Foreign Minister of Iran and Pakistan held a phone conversation this week. Pakistan's foreign minister, again, was talking to Foreign Minister Araghchi. They discussed bilateral relations. And then what happened shortly thereafter? You had Pakistan's Prime Minister Sharif saying the following about China. I consider it extremely important to mention the everlasting friendship and sincere cooperation of our great friend China and its president, Mr. Xi Jinping. The friendship between China and Pakistan is higher than the Himalayas. The great friendly country has stood like a rock with Pakistan in every hour of trial. A defense agreement was reached with the brotherly Islamic country of Saudi Arabia last year, and now Turkey has also become part of the trilateral defense agreement reached in Mecca, Pakistan's Prime Minister Sharif said. This is good news for peace in the Middle East. Glad tidings of peace for the Islamic world and a message of peace for the entire world. Now, there's a reason why he's talking about China and talking about the Mecca Pact in the same breath. Because China is essentially now providing the security umbrella to the Mecca Pact and to the Middle East. that the United States was once supposed to provide for the Middle East, U.S. out, China in, while Donald Trump flails like the weak, pathetic loser that he is, while Taiwan prepares for war, while the U.S. leaves Asia in a very, very weak position as the U.S. security umbrella crashes, and as China continues to make aggressive moves in the area as well, projecting its strength in the area. You have Putin visiting Iturup, one of the Kuril Islands claimed by Japan for the first time ever, visiting a local fish processing plant after overseeing Russian Pacific Fleet drills in the Far East. Tokyo strongly protested this visit by Putin, reiterating its claim to the island, Reuters reports, but the Trump regime too utterly pathetic to do anything about it. That's why Putin is showing what he's doing in the Japanese region. You had, by the way, ballistic missile tests from North Korea in the past 48 hours, coming pretty close to Japan, as Kim Jong-un talks about how North Korea will always be a nuclear power. You've got, again, Russia there, you got China there, you got North Korea there. And so what's the Trump regime doing? Well, you had Brad Cooper, the head of CENTCOM. He showed up recently in Israel, and then Israel's Channel 13 reported that CENTCOM Commander Brad Cooper is pushing for renewed U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, including oil, gas, and electricity infrastructure. He reportedly told senior IDF officials that such attacks could force Iran to change its position. I mean, are these people the dumbest, stupidest people ever? I mean, CENTCOM in the United States is literally being run by a Trumpian clown. This Brad Cooper guy is an absolute fool. I saw him testify. His behavior has been so unbecoming. And I think as a patriotic American, you have to call out these idiots and go, who the hell is this guy? This guy's not smart. He is awful. And he shows up in Israel and then he says that. And so Israel says, here's what Brad Cooper told us. And then Brad Cooper's like, no, I didn't say that. We're not actually going to do that. U.S. CENTCOM then denies Israeli media reports, claiming its commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, is pushing for a strike on Iran, calling the reports false. Well, you showed up in Israel. You met with their top leadership after you know that they fabricated the evidence saying that Iran was going to blow up the old Air Force One. And that caused Donald Trump to cower in a food truck, because he was terrified that he was going to get killed by Iran. Iran's not going to kill the guy. Iran knows that Trump is killing America. Okay, so let's be clear what's actually happening there. So you show up in Israel, you show up with Netanyahu, and then you're shocked that Netanyahu said that that's what you're planning on doing. You again let yourself be used as a puppet, and then you can't make this stuff up. You've got Pete Hegseth now saying America's strategy in Iran is a never-ending war. This is what Hegseth says. U.S. can keep the naval blockade on Iranian ports indefinitely. Hegseth says, yes, we could do this forever. We never have to leave. The hell are you talking about? Then you have Treasury Secretary Bessent saying Washington will announce new measures next week, combining intensified financial pressure with an open-ended naval blockade aimed at further isolating Iran. What do you mean further isolating Iran? Iran has great relationships with the BRICS. It is very close, again, with China and with Russia and North Korea as well. But okay, go live in your fantasy world that this is the right strategy. It's so utterly pathetic. Meanwhile, you have the Houthis allied with Iran, continuing their offensive in the Al-Makka region. It does indeed seem like the Ansar Allah, that's the Houthis, are making a push toward Mocha on Yemen's west coast. Reports are speaking of several points recently captured, and as lots of people are observing, like this open source intelligence account, it does seem like Ansar Allah, the Houthis, are trying to expand their control of the Red Sea coast and Bab el-Mandab. They already control a lot of western Yemen, but they are trying to control Al-Makka, one of the remaining areas that the Saudi-backed government controls. Should also be noted Iran released additional satellite imagery from the result of the missile drone strikes that were carried out last month, where they struck hard in the UAE and Bahrain and American bases there. The UAE just announced that ADNOC, the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, had 2 more tankers hit in the Strait of Hormuz in the past 48 hours. And you have the U.S. flailing while you have these deals being made throughout the world right now. Also, the U.S. tariffs against Canada are set to now take place very soon. We'll see what happens there. The U.S. continues to attack its allies. But let's go back and let's listen right now for a moment to what Lieutenant General Joseph Girard has to say about China, North Korea, Iran, these other alliances that are being formed. Here, play this clip.
Since 2022, China has launched 8 Shang-3 class nuclear-powered guided missile submarines and likely will have all 8 operational by 2027, providing the Chinese with a clandestine land attack option against critical infrastructure in Alaska and along the West Coast. Meanwhile, adversaries are developing and fielding advanced nuclear and conventional delivery capabilities, cruise, hypersonic, and ballistic missiles, as well as fractional orbital bombardment systems, or FOBs, to threaten not only Alaska and Hawaii, but the entire continental United States. The Chinese are developing ICBMs equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles, as well as FOBs weapons that can approach North America from the south rather than the traditional northerly vector for which our legacy early warning radars were designed. Such systems would erode strategic stability by degrading our ability to provide granular and actionable warning of an inbound attack. The Chinese have also begun fielding a conventional armed ICBM equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles that can range targets throughout Alaska, providing Chinese leaders strike options against our homeland below the nuclear threshold. Russia's advanced missiles, like the nuclear-armed Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle, are designed to circumvent the ground-based radars used by NORAD and NORTHCOM to detect and characterize an inbound threat and challenge the ability to provide threat warning and attack assessment. And finally, the North Koreans have successfully flight-tested ICBMs with enough boost to deliver a nuclear payload anywhere in North America, and in October of 24 unveiled a new ICBM design that may be designated to carry multiple nuclear-armed reentry vehicles. In the era of strategic competition, we recognize that geography no longer provides the protection and standoff range of the past, and a more robust approach is needed to defend the United States and Canada. This is visible in the cyber domain, where thousands of attempts are made daily to breach our networks, originating from known state actors and an ever-growing, hard-to-detect and defeat network of non-state actors. Foreign terrorist organizations are fueling violence and destabilization, proliferating human trafficking, drug trafficking, and driving migration in the United States and her allies. The threats to North America are real and persistent, and they radiate from every point of the compass.
And again, that's coming from one of our top generals right there, who also says we can't protect our homeland. Think about that. Think about it. You heard him for yourself. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Pre-order WTF America now. Have you pre-ordered WTF America, the book I wrote with my brothers? It comes out October. Our publisher says it's really helpful if you pre-order it right now. So please, if you can pre-order it, let me know let me know in the comments that you pre-ordered it. Thanks so much. We appreciate you so much.
Breaking news right now. My brothers and I wrote a book. It's called WTF America. And well, doesn't that just say it all? It comes out officially this October, but you can pre-order your copy today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description below.